Today we have filmmaker and podcaster Ron Dawson. He's going to talk about what it takes to create his weekly podcast, Radio Film School. Now, let's roll tape.
This episode is brought to you by Spoof Dance. Create a 15-second parody commercial and win prizes from these amazing film and video companies. Go to the Spoof Dance link below to get started.
Thanks for joining me, Ron.
Thanks for having me, FORRIS. Appreciate it.
All right, let's talk about Radio Film School.
Sure. Love it. Radio Film School, I like to call it This American Life for Filmmakers. If you're familiar with that podcast, it's a audio documentary style podcast where I take disparate interviews from filmmakers and other creatives, and I take just sound bites from each one in order to incorporate into every episode. So let's say if I'm doing an episode about style, like your style as a filmmaker, I'll grab bits and pieces of interviews from all the creators I've done that season that kind of had something to say about that topic.
Mm-hmm. And you always incorporate songs and music into it. Talk about the copyright and how that works.
Sure, absolutely. This is the third podcast that I've produced, and so when I did this one, I wanted it to be different. So I used the audio document format, and so a big part of each episode is not only the interviews but scripted dialogue that I bring in, as well as music, in some cases sound design. And so since my podcast is sponsored, it's technically a commercial endeavor. And so I need to use music that is legally usable for commercial endeavors. And all the music for the show I get, or just about all the music for the show, I get from freemusicarchive.org. And you can do a search for music that allows for commercial use, and easily have upwards of 10,000 and more songs that fit that category. And so I've been able to find some really eclectic and unique sounding tunes to use throughout the show. And I frequently get a lot of comments on the soundtrack for each episode.
Well, I've discovered some great music because of it.
I'm glad.
Listening to your shows. It's like This American Life, which is really cool, with a focus on filmmaking. How do you find your guests?
Well, I've done podcasting before, so a number of guests are from the previous podcasts I've done. I'm a published author about film and video production. I blog, I write for the industry. So over the years, I've had a lot of connections through the industry, through other podcasts I've been on. Like I was on Zakuta Film Fellas. I've written for Professional Photographer magazine. So just as a blogger and as a content creator in the industry for the past, almost 10 years now, I've been able to create a network of filmmakers and high-profile filmmakers who make for great guests. And I don't necessarily need to have filmmakers who are quote-unquote famous. I just looking for filmmakers and creatives who have done really interesting work and are eloquent and have interesting things to say about the work that they do.
Now, you had a project that took you quite a while, a film.
Yeah.
Can you touch on your film a bit?
Yeah, sure. So 5 years ago, I started a short film documentary series called Mixed in America. And the first episode was about my daughter, who's biracial. And I wanted to be able to tell the stories of racial identity, race relations and identity through the eyes of biracial people, using my daughter as the first subject, if you will. For various reasons, I started the process 5 years ago in 2011, but I only just recently finished it 5.5 years later. And so in this past season of the podcast, I kind of tracked the progress of me finishing up that project, talking about what took it so long, and talking about some of the challenges I faced in post-production and in getting it done. So it was a great project to follow and share and be authentic and vulnerable on my podcast about this personal project of mine.
Mm-hmm. Now, as technology changes, did that affect your project at all over a 5-year period? I would think so.
No, the issues were more related to, at first, since it was about my daughter, and at the time she was 16, so it was dealing with, a temperamental 16-year-old and her changes. And And then it had to do with just my time, because it was a personal project. So it had to do with my time as an entrepreneur and as a self-employed small business person, trying to find time to work on something that wasn't really paying the bills, right? So there was a lot, I'm sure a lot of people who are filmmakers who want to do personal projects can relate. But I finally found the time to do it and get it done. And this particular topic has been apropos with what's going on in our country lately. So I've recently released it. It's not public yet, but the people who have seen it, the feedback on it's been wonderful.
Right. And your radio film school, obviously the movie is a video, but your radio film school is audio only.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to do that?
Well, why did I choose to do an audio?
Why not a video?
Right.
As a video guy.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. One of the things I love about editing as a video producer, like I just love it when you get like a really great edit and you feel how the story is coming together. And I love telling stories. But of course, as you know, the complication of video is the video portion. And so, each one of my episodes is really like a 30-minute, sometimes more, sometimes less, usually more, documentary. And so the idea of putting out a 30 to 40-minute visual documentary every week is impossible with the resources that I have. And so, I think audio is a form of media that that allows the listener and the audience to engage without having to be focused on watching it. You can listen to an audio podcast while you're driving to work, while you're exercising. And it's very personal because, you're in the earbuds and, the host is very up close and personal to the people who are listening for the most part. So it's just a more realistic and logistically feasible project for someone like myself to do. And I really genuinely love the art form of audio podcasting.
You and I are contributors to the web series Hitch 20.
Yeah.
And can you walk us through the steps of how you put that episode together? Use that one as an example.
Sure. The first thing I did is I watched the episode and, for me, Hitchcock is such a fantastic filmmaker, of course. And so I'm looking for the things, and Hitch 20 is all about the 20 specific episodes of his television show that he specifically directed. So looking for those signature aspects of his directing style that really stood out. And so watching it first as I went through and then watching it again to look for specific things. So I remember towards the beginning of the episode that I did, there were a lot of long one takes, and it was a while before Hitchcock ever cut to a medium shot. And so you just had the sense that he was going to cut to a particular shot and show you something exactly when he wanted you to see it, and sort of create a certain sense of what was going on in the scene, and only use those close-ups and those medium shots very sparingly. And so you just got a sense that this was a master craftsman who knew exactly what he was doing with his composition. And kind of going through the whole episode and doing that same thing, looking for those kind of directions and composition, even the type of actors that he chose to be in this particular piece as well. So going through, making those notes, and then recording my feedback on them.
And is that what inspired you to do a no radio film school on Hitchcock, by being on Hitch 20?
No, actually, that's a good question. It was the other way around. I had always planned. I wanted to do episodes about filmmakers who had signature styles. So we did an episode on the Coen brothers. We did an episode on the Coen brothers. We did a 2-part episode on Quentin Tarantino, and then we did an episode on Hitchcock. And so I knew at the beginning of the season, even before I started the podcast, that I was going to have a Hitchcock episode. And so it's through the process of finding filmmakers for that I connected with Jeffrey to be on my show. And then through that relationship and talking to Jeffrey, he invited me to be on Hitch 20.
Awesome. And before we go, what's the website so people can go to No Film School and listen? And how can you subscribe and all of that?
Right. Well, it's radio film. I wish I was in charge of No Film School. That is a pretty huge website.
That's right. Yeah, Radio Film School. My
Yeah,
bad.
no
Sorry.
problem. Yeah, no, that's okay. You can just go to where it's located at daredreamer.fm, but even if you just do radiofilmschool.com, it'll take you to the part of the website that has all of the episodes. And it's just I like to call it a great existential look at creativity, the creative arts, and what it means to be a filmmaker.
And anybody who listens to it will clearly hear your passion and how much work you put into the show.
Yeah,
So,
I hope so. We've been getting great feedback on it so far.
definitely, Ron. I hear it when I listen to it. I'm like, man, put a lot of work into it. I want to thank you for joining me on Rolling Tape today.
Thanks for having me.